This is a McMurdo Silver Masterpiece V from about 1936, just been fully restored, including the power supply, amplifier, chassis. I call it a sympathetic restoration. Under the chassis is all the capacitors have been restuffed and or reproduced where the originals didn't exist anymore. Of course the CAN capacitors on the power supply have been restuffed as well. I'm just going to give a quick demonstration of the receiver following its restoration and alignment. The cabinet for this is actually at the Spark Museum in Coquitlam. The receiver actually belongs to Spark, and it will be reunited later this year with the restored cabinet. And hopefully I'll have some photographs or maybe even a video of it working in the cabinet later in the year. Under the bench is the large 18-inch Jensen Supergiant loudspeaker. So the on-off switch is actually on a flying lead over here, and power's on now. Downlights are on. There's 5 wavebands. It's on waveband B, which is the broadcast band at the moment. So the receiver's got maybe about 20 or 30 feet of wire, and there's the antenna. No ground. I think it could really do with the ground. I realigned it on the both the IF section, which has got a hi-fi setting, sort of wide band, narrow band, and narrow band with a BFO. You can't adjust the BFO from the front panel. It's a preset BFO frequency. It works okay. So you've got volume, you've got the sort of mode switch, you've got an expander control, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. It's off it when it's switched off there. I've got bass and waveband and the treble controls, and that's it. It's fairly straightforward. It just looks a really fancy receiver because of all the chrome and the way it's laid out, but actually it's not that complicated, and it's got some design flaws in it. Anyway, it sounds pretty good though on broadcast band, and the IF tuned up really nicely. So we've got a nice wide IF on the hi-fi setting. It's about 15 kilohertz flat top IF response. You switch to the narrow band, it's got about 3 kilohertz fairly flat response curve on it. So it's not quite the sort of sharp as you'd like in a communications receiver, but it's still pretty good for shortwave. But it's really designed for speech on the broadcast band, I think, and keeping out adjacent channel interference. So let's just have a little play around. So there's a lot of short antenna, and it's got a lot of local interference at this site. So there's not many stations come in at night. It's about 11 o'clock at night. So all you kind of get is a lot of interference plus a few local stations.
For the Raps, we're going for a season-high 4-game winning streak. Fred Van's lead added 22 points, and Kyle Lowry has 20. Phoenix O'Day and his team lost to Great Britain.
Many more older people need to stay at home or cared by their household. So you thought it's great. One to 65. I'm Master Meteorologist John Sear. He's 93.1 KSPK.
Struggling with CPAP? Now there's Inspire, the only FDA-approved obstructive sleep apnea treatment that works inside the body to treat the root cause of sleep apnea.
In months instead of decades. Full financial freedom can help you get
1-800-831-9495. United We Stand. 1-800-831-9495.
You've made
made the decision to go green, clean, and back to the basics. Now choose integrity.
See the BFO in the circuit down a weaker signal. Anyway, so there we go. McMurdo Silver MP5. It's actually, the interference sort of is a real shame because it's quite a sensitive receiver on the narrowband setting, where it's got 2 RF stages and 3 IF stages in circuit. On the wideband setting, it's not so good. It switches out 2 of the IF stages, so you've only got 1 stage of IF amplification, and that really broadens the bandwidth. And on the highest band, on band E, as I say, it doesn't really work properly from 25 megahertz down to 17 megahertz. The local oscillator cuts out. I've tried everything to get it working, and it's a design flaw. I'm pretty sure of that. Anyway, it does actually recommend like a really hot 6J7 tube, local oscillator tube, for it to work, and maybe I just haven't got one hot enough. Anyway, on band E, it actually switches the 2 RF amplifiers out of circuit, so the antenna couples straight to the mixer tube. So it's not particularly sensitive, and the image rejection on that band is pretty lousy. So it's not really a hot receiver. It's kind of disappointing, really. And some of the write-ups you read about this receiver, they'll say it sounds great, but it's in terms of actual performance, and sensitivity and so on on the highest band, it really doesn't cut the mustard. Anyway, there we go. It's a good looking receiver, and it works great on broadcast band. Sounds great on music. I'm not going to play any music through it because YouTube will probably cut it out and ban the video. So there you go. McMurdo Silver Masterpiece V, 1936.